This is the VIP Podcast, Virginia in Politics. Let's listen to host Chris Saxman explore the personalities and policies that connect the Commonwealth. The VIP Podcast is brought to you by the VCTA, Broadband Association of Virginia, and Virginia Free. The views and opinions expressed here do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the VCTA and Virginia Free or our sponsors.
It's Chris Saxman back with you on the VIP Podcast with two brand new VIPs, Delegate Paul Krizek and Senator Bryce Reeves, running for Congress, right?
It's running me right now.
That's right. You're right now. This podcast is brought to you by VCTA, the Broadband Association of Virginia, and Virginia Free, of which I am the Executive Director, available to you on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and share. Gentlemen, you're working together across party lines. Have you no understanding of American politics these days? What's going on?
Well, I'll start. This is how American politics is supposed to work. Right?
Oh, that's right.
In cooperation with each other to solve issues, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we found a problem and we're trying to fix it. That's government at its best.
You're doing it wrong. People back home are not going to like you. You're going to make a primary.
Yeah, I haven't lobbed grenades at him yet, or
perhaps say nice things in private.
Yeah,
and actually mean them.
Yeah. Well, let me just say this. I didn't really know Delegate Krizek, Paul, before this issue came up, and you know I've been here 10 years, and I've learned that I've never earned somebody's respect by demonizing them. But I also know that I have a job to do for the constituents I serve, and Paul agrees the same way. And we just struck up a friendship. And you know, I think too often, if you don't break bread together, and you know, I know his whole story. I know about some of the trials and tribulations he's gone through. He's my friend. Now there are issues that we're wired in this room on, right? But by and large, there's some issues that we can just find commonality, and we don't bring politics into it.
Just solve the daggone problem, right?
And we're working on solving issues.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the issue, Paul. You've been a stalwart on charitable gaming. Tell us about where we are and why you're here talking about this particular issue.
Well, I was the chairman of the ABC subcommittee in the last 2 years,
which also has gaming.
Which has the
ABC gaming.
ABC gaming, you're right. ABC gaming and cannabis, I guess now is the
okay.
And last year, Senator Reeves had a bill that came before us. And you got to listen to how that came about, because by the time it got to us, it was a whole different animal than what it started out to be. And I was listening to him, we do actually learn things when we're in these hearings. And I heard his testimony, and I heard the witnesses and everybody that was lined up, and I was like, this is a problem. And I had already kind of had a little inclination, but you know, the problem is that you've got a proliferation of gambling going on in Virginia. It's all over the place. Machines are popping up in coffee shops, restaurants. We found them in all kinds of places. And so he had a bill, and you know it's a good bill when there's about 100 people that are against it.
Oh, yeah, it was fun for me.
This is last year's
session.
Effort. You're chairing the ABC subcommittee in general laws. ABC is alcohol beverage control, gambling, and now cannabis.
Right.
And lo and behold, Senator Bryce Reeves from the other chamber of ill repute, the chamber of the slow.
Yeah, we were ready. We're ready to kill it. You know, it's a Senate Republican. We're going to
the slower body, the less numerous body,
more deliberate.
The more deliberate. That's right. And the House guys.
Yeah,
slow.
I got it. I got it.
Older and slower. So seriously, Senator Reeves, tell us about your bill and what you were trying to do all along, and how you got to this point.
So we're under COVID restrictions, and typically a lot of our charities play bingo, right? And under COVID restrictions, there wasn't a lot of bingo going on. And several years ago, there was this movement to say, hey, we're going to let you play electronic pull tabs, or basically, in a general sense, slot machines, however you want to categorize them, skill, pull tab, whatever, but they're electronic games. And the General Assembly said, okay, you can put those things in your social quarters. In other words, if I'm in a VFW hall. I have a bingo hall where we rent out and people do weddings and stuff, and then you have a private social quarters or a cantina where private members go in, they can throw darts, get drinks, play pool, and play these pull tabs. And an organization came to me and said, hey, wait, we can't do bingo because of COVID restrictions, will you loosen up electronic gaming, right? And I said, that's reasonable, because we don't want our charities to lose money. We want them to continue to do what they're doing.
And let's just back it up for the audience. Charitable gaming in Virginia is a huge enterprise.
Well, we'll talk about that. When we get to that point, I'll tell you how big it is.
Yeah.
We didn't know till we finished Paul's subcommittee hearings and the Office of the Inspector General report. But so what happened was I was carrying that bill perfectly fine, no problem. And quite frankly, Chris, if it's a veterans bill, I'm getting the bill out, right? I'm the veterans. I handle all that stuff on our side. In both chambers, they come to me. And I walked into a facility, a restaurant, and it looked like Vegas. And I was like, what is this? And I knew enough about, because Skill had just gone through this, we have them, now we're not going to have them. And
define skill for the audience.
Skill is electronic gaming, but you have to be able to perform. It's a skill-based game.
Okay.
It's not a game of chance.
Right.
If you do well at it and you have that skill, then you're going to get a payout.
Okay.
And we knew those were already regulated by ABC, Alcohol Beverage Control. And then I saw these other machines and I couldn't tell what they were. Till finally I waited for a screen to process through, and it was a charitable organization from Chesapeake in Spotsylvania County. And I said, wait a minute, what is this? And so I started to do some homework, because I'm a law enforcement officer, and I found out that, hey, this isn't supposed to be happening. Why are these in bars and restaurants? They've proliferated. Yeah. And so 1127 was the genesis of that bill. I got asked to strike my bill.
Senate Bill 1127 last year.
And I was torqued. I was pissed that somebody's going to leverage my reputation to allow these people to have 24 hours, 7 days a week gambling and all these institutes and places we didn't want it. And in 2019, there was an effort.
Was it legal what they were doing?
That's debatable, right? And here's what we uncovered, because it's a big issue. Here's what we uncovered. The General Assembly had defined social quarters, but we allowed the Charitable Gaming Board to promulgate those regulations. And what that Charitable Gaming Board did was redefine social quarters against the will of the General Assembly.
Uh-oh.
They had tried to pass a bill in 2019. It was flat-handedly defeated.
Who tried?
Collins, Delegate Collins.
But who was behind that bill? Was it
the same people and companies that
these
wanted
companies? This wasn't an action of the Charitable Gaming Board then.
Twofold, yes.
And
part of the Charity Gaming Board, but these big manufacturers that have a lot to gain in the industry.
Oh, sure.
Right? And then as we dug farther into it, we found out that members of the Charitable Gaming Board were promulgating regulations for their own self-interest.
And this is a regulatory
full-scale corruption is what we're saying then.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now we're getting good. This is starting to get fun.
Right.
Because I was on the ABC subcommittee, and I used to was educated on these things. So you have this bill. You see this. This is you're redressing grievances. You have your very own grievance because you know the system. You know all the issues.
Well,
you put this bill, and it comes through the Senate.
Yeah, well, it's coming through the Senate committees, and I had done my background, and we had a gentleman that represented the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars. And I mean, we were in these hearings. At that time, these guys were meeting virtually. We were meeting in the Science Museum. And he gets up and he has his cover on, VFW, and he's just blasting me, right? The bill is horrible, all this stuff. What he didn't realize is I found out he's not only a lobbyist for the VFW, he's a paid lobbyist for Powerhouse Gaming, which is one of these gaming manufacturers, but failed to disclose that as well to the committee.
Oops.
Right? And we catch him flat out in committee on testimony, recorded testimony. Yes, I'm eventually get that out that he is.
Because usually you can tell if someone's that upset, they have something personal at stake.
And what we also found out was Powerhouse Gaming gave the VFW $225,000 to be the sole provider of charitable games to the VFW, right? So they had a financial stake in this thing going forward. Now, we talked a little bit earlier, and Paul will back me up on this. We finally had to twist enough arms to figure out kind of where some of these numbers are. Let me give you a quick idea. This is just two companies in charitable gaming. And in 2013, I'll just give you one. Their gross proceeds were $2,220,000. In 2021, their gross proceeds were $551,946,000. Okay? In 9 years, they went from $2 million to $551. Another company.
Million. One company in Virginia.
And this is what we know about.
Under the label of charitable gaming.
Correct. Now, here's another one. It's just going to blow you away.
Construct.
Right? Their gross in 2021, $865 million. All right? So you're talking $1.3 billion being played.
Yeah.
If you don't think this is about money,
it's only about money. Then it's what does the charity get out of this?
Less than 5%, really. It's
not even a tip.
Yeah.
Not even.
I mean, in the poker thing, I think it was 2.5%. You know, and that's the crux of the problem is that the regulatory board, with all these vested interests in the manufacturing and their, they rent out the property where the gaming's going on and they're making money. They're a regulatory body with vested interest in making money in game.
What's their vested interest? What does the Charitable Gaming Board get out of higher revenues from these entities?
So what some members of that board had done was set up their own charity, right?
No.
Yeah.
And then they would go to you as another charity and go, hey, come play in our facilities. We're going to take a piece of yours, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to.
So they're in on the action.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so
this has to be illegal.
So,
well, that's why we've got 8 bills.
8 bills.
Yeah.
8 bills total.
And we could have had more. The other thing we were able to do when Senator Reeves brought his bill to us is I put some language in, because I'm on appropriations, got some language in the budget to have the Office of the State Inspector General.
And that's critical because at that time I had a full court press on me, and I was fighting a battle that by myself. Reputation. They tried to impugn my reputation. They said they were going to drag me into court. I was in a fight for my life, and
for being a legislator,
for bringing this stuff forward and trying to
for being a legislator,
and if it wasn't for Paul putting him and I think it was Senator Marsden on the Senate side put this legislation in, unbeknownst to some of the big players, that was our saving grace because we knew we had corruption. But just me bringing it forward and then Paul picking it up and saying, hey, that wasn't going to be enough. And what we did was, in my language, I said, hey, we got to have a study at a minimum. And so both chairmen of both, and at that time the Democrats were in control, if you'll remember. So we had a Republican going to the Democrats saying, hey, put us in as a subcommittee. We've got to get this going. And at the same time, congruent with that, Paul in the budget was having the OSIG report. And here's something interesting. We both have a copy of the OSIG.
Yeah, we both brought the
OSIG. Just for our audience, Paul and Bryce come in like, y'all together? Like, yeah, we thought we were together. Like, okay, and they both have the Office of Inspector General report on this, and this was not set up. This is a completely organic conversation. Fair?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Fair. Okay, so you both have this report from the Office of Inspector General.
It was just scathing. So we go through the summer, and we're trying to strategize who we want to hear from because this is a big issue. You're not going to unwind.
I mean, you're talking billions of dollars.
Right.
So to be clear, so Bryce's bill passes through a democratically controlled General Assembly. We get it through. It gets watered down to this subcommittee, but much of the bill was there. We had and we knew that what he passed was the floor, and even that
just
to stop the bleeding, and all those opponents. They were upset at that bill. Now they wish that was it. Now they're fine with that. They're going, let's go back to it.
So the Republicans came and said, basically, we have a good idea in Bryce Reeves. And y'all said, you not only have a really good idea, we're going to take it to the next level.
Right.
Is that fair? Because the Democrats saw this and said, we have an opportunity to do some better.
The Speaker appointed me to be the chair of the subcommittee. And with Senator Reeves and a number of senators, Senator Eben and Senator Bell and Senator Ruff, Senator Hanger. And
for the audience who doesn't know these people, completely bipartisan.
Completely bipartisan. We had a number of members also on the House side, and we had 5, maybe 6 meetings over the summer. This was a lot of work, and we were an investigatory body.
This is the quietest investigation I've ever heard of at this level in Virginia, because of all the things this is one of the things I have a problem with in our body politic today is we have so many of these national stories invading our narrative in a decimated press corps. These stories are legitimate.
Well,
And
I know
no one's
Graham
being-
Mumba and Jackie DeFlesco did some big stories on it.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
they've
it's
covered
so
it.
big.
Okay, so you've gotten some press coverage on this.
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
But not nearly
I mean, this
commensurate.
could be a national news story, really. I mean,
Because they're
Because
everywhere.
you're charging corruption.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's sad for Virginia to have this, part of our conversation.
Here's what's
And it-
positive, though, Chris. We're cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
and you're seeing that by the way the bills are coming through. And,
Yeah, it's
Paul and I talked
bipartisan
about this.
effort. Yeah, we're getting
Pretty
it
much
through.
unanimous across the board?
There are some people who have had to recuse themselves, Rule 36, because
Okay.
they have a vested interest. Like Chap Peterson, Senator Peterson on my side. He represents one of the members of the Charitable Gaming Board. He actually carried.
So he's an attorney for them.
He's
Again,
an attorney, but he
has
also carried the
ethical reasons he has to recuse
the
himself.
Texas Hold'em bill. So there's he's got his own little issues with that, but
But under the rules of the Senate and rules of the House, you have a provision where you abstain.
Right.
It's R69 in the House and
yeah.
R36 in
Yep,
the
you're
Rule 36 and Rule 69 that says you can't vote if you have a vested interest. in
Right,
the
and you'll
thing.
see that today because we're doing the appropriations amendments, and there'll be some that are pulled out,
Right.
just to for people to be able to R69. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But when we finally got the OSIG report at the end, near the end,
They testified. They came to our.
What did they say in your subcommittee?
Well, they gave a bunch of recommendations. I mean, there's over 20 recommendations,
Yeah,
and we could have brought more than 8 bills.
our main goal was
You're just getting started then.
I think we're just getting started. Yeah, and let's back up one little second because I think it's
I do think
important.
we're going quickly, and this is
is.
exciting stuff.
It's exciting, but I think it's important that your listeners and viewers understand that the charitable gaming. We're trying to protect them. The charitable gaming
Absolutely.
folks that are out there, the VFWs, the Moose, the Eagles, those guys are for the most part good guys with great intent, and they do good work in the community. And that's all we want to make sure. I mean, right now there's 273 licensed organizations in Virginia. If we don't get these bills through, it's open to the 26,000 charities that are working in Virginia. Any one of them could start charitable gaming, and they could put it anywhere.
You could start.
Because you run a nonprofit,
Right,
Paul,
I mean-
and you understand the nature of the business and how important it is to have your reputation intact, to stay on mission. Because everything you
Right.
write down and say, for the tax benefit purposes, we have to follow the mission, and
Right.
we don't want the entire nonprofit world
and you don't
under
want
suspicion.
right, and the money that you raise needs to go to that mission.
Exactly right.
And we're putting the emphasis back on charity and away from gaming.
Right.
That's really the theme of what we've been doing. But we've uncovered a lot, and Senator Reeves has been dogged in this. And
So we talked about.
And when did you
the
start this? How long
1.3
ago did you start this?
Last year when they asked
Yeah.
me to carry the bill.
yeah, it all happened. It was a kind of organic situation with that bill, and we saw the testimony and heard the, lies basically that were, you heard the guy that was testifying was, and one of those guys, that video was still on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is classic.
They left their Zoom on, and he was cursing because it just flashed on the screen. I can't believe this, and he started screaming obscenities, and it was great. It was great for us because it just confirmed what I'd already known. Look, I'm a cop at nature, right? I understand you have to have probable cause to make arrests. When I started unveiling the 990s of where some of these organizations...
Explain the 990 for the audience.
990 is a tax form that these charities have to fill out so they show their expenses.
Right.
And they kind of break down how much they actually give to charities and those sort of things. And we saw some of these charities were just, you could tell, they're just filters to get more money and build these corporate headquarters like a $1.7 million house on the water, right? That's their corporate headquarters. So, but let me share one thing that came out of this OSIG. Out of that 1.3 billion, out of just 2 companies, not all the companies that we know about.
Yeah.
Okay. VDAC, which is the enforcement arm, does not have oversight enforcement authority over 70% of charitable games gross receipts in the Commonwealth. Right?
Who does? If
No
VDAX,
one.
if VDAX
No one.
doesn't, no one.
That's
It's
the
unregulated.
problem. Unregulated.
It's unregulated.
unenforced.
It's the Wild West.
It was the
And
Wild
unenforced.
West. In
You got-
Virginia.
you hit the 2 things.
You can't
unregulated and
under
unenforced.
ABC, where you can't get a bottle of booze at the local store.
Now ABC,
Right?
ABC is different.
But it's under ABC.
No, it's under VDAC.
Okay.
Which is the Department of Agriculture.
The ABC
Right.
subcommittee. Sorry.
So,
Right.
Sorry, Travis.
Yeah, it's
Didn't
not
mean to
ABC.
impugn ABC stores.
So
great shop, good looking.
Look, our big goal, and we've talked about this.
Stratus Hill's head of ABC.
Nobody wanted charitable gaming because they knew it was broken, right? There was this movement afoot to put them under lottery, right? Our goal in thinking now that we've uncovered this, look, we've both said in the committee, the subcommittee, and everyone else said, look, let us try to clean up charitable gaming first, right? Because you have all these silos. You have HHR and Rosie's in that group. You have casinos. You have lottery. You have skill games, right? And you have charities, and then you have online sports betting. And our goal eventually is to set up an umbrella over that, because we don't have a gambling czar, right? So we need.
Sounds like we need one.
Yeah, and our goal is to set up the Virginia Gaming Commission and have a commissioner, and then take a piece of everybody to set up the enforcement arm, which we believe will be through the state police, and we've promulgated some of that in our regulations here, because you hit the nail on the head, Chris. Right?
I didn't even know.
Unregulated, unregulated, but unregulated and unenforceable. Right. And that's what we've seen. And here's the bigger issue now that we've seen. And I actually took video of a place in my district that I couldn't believe even existed. It was all illegal. There were Chinese machines you could play.
So it was completely illegal.
Yeah,
100%. And that's what you've had happen when
like pop-up casinos.
Pop-up casinos.
Yeah. In the back of semi-trailers.
Come on.
Maybe not.
That's unbelievable.
But
and
that has nothing to do with this.
And localities are scrapping and fighting
and
just
they
get
don't,
5 casino licenses legally,
right.
going through that entire process. And these guys are undermining the market in pop-up.
And that hurts charitable, reputable.
And it hurts charitable game. Yeah, the good,
and the whole
reputable
reputation.
charities and the reputation. But the good ones who are doing good for their community are being harmed, and that's why we've got.
Well, that's just the beginning of the criminal activity, though. Honestly, Bryce, you know, you're a law enforcement officer. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Because once you bring this in and they get away with it, everything else is going to come with it.
Oh yeah.
All the bad aspects to gambling that people are afraid of, and will say, "Yeah, I told you so's."
Right.
You know, those are the kind of elements that come with that, and they're very dangerous and very bad for society.
And it would be shame on us if we don't do something about it. And this, I think, and this is why all of our, the majority of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle, both parties, are supportive of our efforts, because they know that this is their last chance.
So what does the law?
We're all complacent in this.
Yeah.
Because here's what happened. Complicit.
You're not complacent.
Yeah. We're not complacent. We have been a little bit complacent, but now
But here's what happened, right? We said, oh, it's charities. They're good guys. They do the right thing, right? And we voted these bills through. We actually voted a bill in 202015.
That was the cover for it all.
And I was, I was part of the where we both come together on a bill, the committee conference on one of them.
Okay.
I couldn't believe it, right? Because I just listened to the people that we thought were doing the right thing,
right?
Because it was charity.
Sure.
And Paul and I've talked. We have a moral obligation to fix this, and we're willing to take the hits from,
we have taken hits.
It has to stop, right? Because
have you taken hits?
There's a lot. They've got some like the media out there that they. I think it's pay media, but out on social media, a lot of Twitter, attacks, and they've hired some lobbyists who've been coming around, and it's
and they're putting out false.
The ugly side of politics. The ugly side of politics.
I mean, there's a lot of lies going on. Yeah,
I know for a fact.
They're telling all the good charities that we're coming after them, and that's hurtful. That's hurtful, and it's false. And if anybody knows, especially Senator Reeves' reputation with the veterans, for them to impugn that is just, it's really beyond the pale.
Well, and then your reputation within the charitable community.
Yeah, absolutely.
We want the charities to do well, because that is good for our communities.
Yeah, we want them to kill it.
And we want we want to get these bad apples, these bad actors out of it. And that's what these bills do. I mean, we're defanging that charitable gaming board. We're making it into a advisory board, which it should have been all along. It used to be.
Where is this going to go now? Who's going to be the enforcement entity in Virginia now?
State police will help.
State police. We got some money in the budget. I got some money in the budget. Bryce and I have a bill that's gonna give them some enforcement power. It's only, we're gonna have to grow that again next year. We've got to do more. But we were just talking about, we've asked JLARC to create a study to come up with this commission or czar or whatever it's going to happen.
Right.
We want JLARC to tell us, this is what's needed, and what the best practices are in other states that have these multiple types of gambling. So we're hoping that will give us our direction for the future.
And we've had to be flexible, Because we've always said all along, if there's a legitimate charity out there that is doing good work,
of course,
and we're not trying to hurt you, we'll figure out how to do a carve out with what our objective is to get them back in the box and out of restaurants and bars. Right. That's not where they're supposed to be. That's not where people want Catholic charities. And
I'd go to a convenience store and see some gaming going on.
Well,
we won't go there.
We've had charitable games in some of those.
See little
but we're cleaning up charitable gaming. Maybe somebody else will clean up the other parts. And we've had them where they're like, trust me, Chris, we've had the casino guys come to us. We've had HHR guys. Hey, get rid of them here. They're trying to gourd each other's oxen,
of course,
right?
Yeah. It's a huge business. I mean,
don't bring that in on our stuff.
Right? We get that.
Right. Don't bring it in on our. Let us clean up what we're trying to do for our charities, because I think we can all find agreement in that. We want them to be very profitable. And when you look at how much money is engaged in that, we never did actually get to the real point of how much are you supposed to be giving to the charities, right? Because once we started uncovering
that's where
all
we
this
kind of
stuff,
started, and
millions of dollars.
Right.
Would solve a lot of charitable problems, right?
Right. And one of the things, there's an audit fee engaged in this thing, and the code currently says it's based off of gross receipts. Well, I told you what those gross receipts are right now. Now you're talking about $12 million.
But you're not.
We've been in negotiations with these companies, as well as everybody else, to bring them in to control what they're doing, and they're in agreement. We have one company that's been with us 100%, and they're one of the bigger players in this arena. They're like, we've known it's been broken, we're on board. The other company, we've had to pull along, and we can carry a stick or a carrot. Right? We can take it off adjusted gross, or we can take it off. Right. Okay. So off gross receipts or adjusted gross receipts, right? So that's a big chasm right there. You're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And that fee, those companies pay, right? Well, some of the false information out there is they're saying if the VFW is playing, they're saying you're going to have to pay a fee or a tax now. Well, that fee, that audit fee, helps us with enforcement.
It's 1.375%. We're not raising that. That's what it's been for years.
It's nominal.
It's nominal. It's so nominal.
It's nominal. Compared to what our sales taxes are and the other.
If you're going to play in the charitable
grocery
world,
taxes,
if you want to be a casino, go be a casino. If you want to do one of the other, then go be HHR.
Right.
But this is charitable gaming, and if you can't afford because you make so much money on it. Because we heard this sad story. Oh, we don't make anything hardly on it because we give more money back to the player. Once we started to peel back the onion, that's just not true.
Yeah.
Right.
So where does everything stand right now?
Well, we have today in general laws, which I'm on the general laws committee. A number of Bryce's bills and Senator Bell's bills are coming over, and we have also one of my bill, our bill on poker. Is up on the floor today in the House.
This is full committee this afternoon after session?
Yeah, full committee after session.
Okay.
So we're going to have...
So subcommittee's done its work. You've recommended these things go forward.
Yeah, they've already gone through both the House and the Senate side. Now it's there. We've crossed over.
Okay.
And now they've got to pass through us.
We've got 3 years out of committee going to... All of my bills go to finance in the Senate first, right?
Yeah, we go... Some of ours go to probes. Not all of them, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should be... I think, a number of them. I mean, some of the stuff we've done is while we've been working on this, we found other little, issues. For example, and we're trying to get all the gaming to be kind of consistent. One of the things we really want to have is money that goes into the problem gaming fund, and the casinos have been paying into that. Lottery pays into that, but we found out that the HHR, the folks at Rosie's weren't paying into it. Charitable gaming is not paying into it. And so we want to make sure that because that, as gaming has expanded and certainly as the casinos come online, we need to make sure that there's a robust response to problem gaming. And that, we found that
and they haven't been paying in. I mean, that's unconscionable.
Right. And
well, you brought up the moral argument what happens when you bring gambling. That's what we're trying to solve as well.
Right, because there's always been with the understanding, like, look, we're going to have money set aside for people who have a difficulty with the addiction. It's like any of our other legal products that have some addictive qualities to it.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
We have to do that. I mean, the JLARC, there was a JLARC report for the casinos, and they mentioned, I think it's like 5%, 3 to 5% of people have problem gaming issues.
Right.
And so you do need to have that stand up a good setup, a resource for them, not just a tip, not just a 1-800.
The irony of having charitable gaming create more charitable opportunities.
Yeah, there's exactly.
Honest, right?
They should have some that just go right to the. But it is, so and even that's, that has run into some folks who, they don't want to have that money, money going there, and then we've also we're trying to make sure that these machines, and as Bryce has said, that we're talking about slot machines essentially, whether it's a skill game, a charity,
which are far
game,
more addictive than the other forms.
Right. I mean, you can put, it doesn't take a second to lose, a couple dollars.
Right.
And what we want to do is get the age up to 21, so everybody's on the same page there too. So we have a bill raising the age for these machines up to 21, and that should be passing out today. I think that's gone through already.
Right.
So and some of this, it sounds like a no-brainer, and you're sometimes surprised when there is folks against it and there's controversy. But as the senator said, we have worked with everybody. We're if there's a carve out we need to do, we're willing to do it. And we're also, one thing I've learned in my 7 years down here in the General Assembly is that you got to, you do these things, you build on, you have building blocks. We are building on Senator Reeves' bill from last year, 1171, right? 11, yeah. And so, and now we'll be building again next year. We'll continue to build. But I think, we also, wasn't just these new bills that we came up with, but there was about 20 other bills on gaming that we basically were able to get, passed by or tabled because everybody realizes this is the focus.
Right,
and they ran contrary.
So it sounds like everyone's behind y'all. Y'all are figuring it out.
But
what's the primary argument against your legislative packages? I mean, is it the libertarian free market argument there, or are they really not?
The argument is the big companies that are making $1 billion playing.
It's a lot of money,
right? They don't want to lose that share, right? They're getting
the
hogs get
the companies.
slaughtered,
I get their interests.
Right.
We all see that. Are there any legislative arguments, philosophical arguments that are saying, guys, let the free market run here?
No, we haven't heard that.
No.
What's still out there is, I mean, you know how busy we are, and I always tell people we're like, and this is, Bryce will appreciate this if he gets into Congress, we're like Congress on steroids. I mean, we do in a couple months what Congress does in a year. And so there's members that are that haven't, that are not on the committees, don't have the bandwidth.
So they're just not aware of it.
And they're not aware, and they're the ones who are receptive to the other side's, to the machine manufacturer's argument, the misinformation. So it's and as we get through the session, that number keeps going down and getting to a smaller number. So I think that first we had to work on leadership, and we were able to do that. And I mean, this has been a lot. I've never worked so hard in the General Assembly.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I consider myself a hard worker, but he's a tough taskmaster. But we've had a good teamwork here, and it really has.
Well, you're the first guest on the VIP podcast that have brought in their work with them, and it's the same work. I mean, this is not scripted at all. It's an organic operation.
We're Velcro right now. I mean, I'll take them into battle any day of the week.
Is that right?
Listen, there are some things that are just naturally inherent bipartisan, and Paul knows. Look, politics is like mold, right? You see it growing in the grout.
Road on this one.
You see it growing in the grout in the shower. Everybody's seen it.
Yep.
You don't kill it with bleach; it'll kill your policy. And from day one, there was no politics. And Paul and I have made sure we're keeping politics out of
completely
everything.
out of it.
Completely out. Let's focus on what it is.
Okay.
And here's kind of a highlight of the OSIG report.
There's nothing partisan about this.
Shouldn't be. No.
Has it become partisan a little bit at all?
No.
Okay.
Not one bit.
All right.
I mean, literally not one bit.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody comes to us now like, hey, what is this? I literally told him this yesterday in a text. I said, we couldn't get here if we weren't honorable men and people didn't respect us, right? Mm-hmm. If we said something that just isn't true, but to the best of our knowledge, as we uncover these things, we're verifying what they're telling us, what we know to be true, what the OSIG report is. Mm-hmm. It's just like an investigation. We're doing the best job we can to stop major bleeding, reverse that. Taking care of the board is going to be huge, right? Because that's just going to stop it. We're going to go to the authority of Active EDAC. There's a gentleman that's kind of handles all charitable gaming in VDAC, Mike Menifee, who's probably the foremost authority on charitable gaming in the country, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And he knows. But he also has to enforce whatever that law is, even though it might run contrary, and he knows that, hey, they're getting by with murder on the thing.
Right.
So he has been very helpful for Paul and I to.
So has this effort reinvigorated your perspective on politics and government as far as doing the right thing for the right reasons? You have the executive branch side. You have both chambers in the legislature working and trying to improve this. I'm reinvigorated by the ability for y'all to reach across the aisle and have it be completely nonpartisan and get good stuff done.
Let me say this. When the Senate was still in charge, I was chairman of Social Services and Rehab. Happened to be in Denver, Colorado at what is that program we all have to go to? Anyway, the national
NCSL.
That's it, NCSL. And I got a report in front of me.
National Council of State Legislators.
In Virginia that said we were last in the country for kids who age out of foster care. And I'm like, what? Like, we're last in Virginia?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this isn't going to work. So literally, I picked the phone up and I called Monty Mason, Democrat senator from James City County in that area, right, Williamsburg. I said, Monty, what do you know about this? Because as chairman, I always said in social service and rehab, that's not a political thing. Don't bring that stuff in here. Let's solve issues, right? And I did. I believe that. And I put Monty in charge of something else, and he did a great job. And Monty, we have this thing come down called Family Care First Act from the federals, and we're not getting that money either. And I just got this report. I said, I'm committee chairman. You're now assigned to that committee. You're the chairman of this. I need to find out everything you can.
Member of the opposite party.
Opposite party. Did the same thing with Barbara Favola. I put her on another committee because I know how much she loves children and all that sort of stuff. I said, Barbara, you got to work with Monty on that. And we came up with recommendations. And when we started to, same process, peel back the layers, we found out all these different things were happening in foster care. In fact, I called somebody in the administration who was in charge of social services, and they said, you're not going to be able to get this done. Dude, I remember to the day, I was sitting at Dairy Queen talking to him on the phone, and I said, that's unacceptable. And anyway, going back.
A member of the executive branch told you would not be able to change?
Correct.
What needed to be changed?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I took it as a challenge. And not only,
it's an insult.
Right, not only did we get it done, the governor that year had only put in $100,000 for foster care. I went to Janet Howe, Democrat, right, Senate, senior member in finance, and said, Janet, we need $3.2 million to backfill these 86 positions and do all these things that we have to do. And we're still to this day doing things for kinship care, foster care. You're seeing those bills come through. But ever since we got that big packet and reversed that process, now those players that were part of that, they have everyone's respect because they're on that issue. And we fixed that issue. We're no longer 50th. We're in the upper 20s. We're not number one in the country.
But you're moving in the right direction.
But we've moved the needle. And I think this is no different. And I was always taught, if you see a deficiency and you fail to correct it, you set a new standard.
Right.
And when I saw this originally, I'm like, this is, excuse my language, this is BS, right?
You're military, Bravo Sierra.
Yeah, correct. And I'm like, I can't do this. Morally, I can't let this continue. And I took the bill that was the original bill allowing expansion, and I radically changed it. They were mad. And I'm like, I'm not striking my bill. And I took it to them. And I couldn't have done it without
Talk about Paul Bryce, what pressure looks like in a political context like this. When you're getting hit with what? When people are saying, we're getting a lot of pressure.
How many times we talk at night like,
I know, we get paid the same amount of money whether we get this bill passed or not, right?
Well, that's not true. He makes a whopping $300 more.
You're $300 more a year.
You're $17,642 or something like that, and you're $18,000. So these are big numbers here.
I mean, one of the things we talk about bandwidth. The difference in the Congress also is they have a big staff. And they can handle pressure a lot easier because they have, they've got the expertise.
Pressure just the amount of input you're getting.
Yeah. I mean, people come and, they come to your house even and to knock on the door when they know you're home on weekends. Yeah. But they, we get lots of emails. We got, you get Twitter now. You get instant messaging. You get things through Facebook. I mean, there's just so many ways to communicate, and I think that's a great thing. But it can be.
Let me chime in for a second.
kind of daunting, though,
It can
right?
be daunting.
Right, when you're trying to do some stuff, and you've got your own personal
Right.
challenges every day.
And then
me
you're
say
trying to
this.
run your own. You're trying to do your own job too.
Right.
You know, that's
He has a day job, and you just brought up something, your own personal challenges. I knew what Paul was going through, right? And I don't want to share what he's going through, but it was a very, very difficult time for him.
Yeah.
Very difficult time for him. And for him to be chairing and still doing these things, we would talk when he would have a break. He's like, hey, can I call you at 2 a.m.? Or whatever time that
Seriously?
was.
Yeah. You're calling each other at 2 a.m.?
Yeah, we're getting this. We got to get this thing through.
Because
it's a serious
of the
business.
things that were happening in his daily
the only
personal
time you
life.
could carve out for yourself to do something for the good of the public, the good of the people, is 2 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of delegates and senators to do that. I mean, they have to.
But people don't know that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, if I brought this is the small binder.
Yeah.
My other binder's about this thick, and the things that we've just uncovered would turn your head. And
We could do a weekly show.
Maybe we should.
I mean, it's
Because look, this is not the Virginia that we all love and cherish. Right?
I will say
this is a
our
problem.
carrot's in the form of a hammer, and I've always said if you guys continue to fight us back, I'm just going to drop a packet on the and I'm sure some law enforcement agencies already have a packet. I know that for a fact because I put affidavits together and everything else. We're going to drop the whole thing on them.
Just ban it.
Well,
If you can't ban
well,
that right.
let me
right?
say this.
That's the hammer provision.
Well, we have a
That's the
hammer
nuclear
provision in
option.
our legislation now
Yeah.
on the enforcement side. If they get a gaming violation in another state, they can no longer do business. The other part of
In Virginia.
the other part of this is when VDAC gets that, they could never really enforce violation of the gaming laws. It was a slap on the wrist, and you get to appeal, and it just was you could never do anything.
Yeah.
We're giving real teeth to the enforcement arm, not only through
Stronger
civil penalties,
Yeah, stronger penalties.
but criminal.
But you have to have the enforcement mechanism, otherwise the teeth don't matter.
Correct.
And
They're
yeah.
sitting on the dresser drawer, right? Those,
And with
those are old.
And with
teeth.
the fee now going on all the machines, we're going to have some money to do that too. So that's
and you're creating the umbrella, the
Well, that's to
czar.
come. That's not in our legislation.
that's
but
the
that's to
JLARC
come.
that we're requesting JLARC to start that process.
And come up with
Yeah.
a program.
And they will-
JLARC is the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission.
Right.
That is sort of like the Uber Commission in Virginia that really goes deep on these things.
Right.
You want them to come up with the enforcement mechanism, what that should look like, and how it should be structured in the executive branch. Is that right?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Let's try to transition to something a little less gamey. Talk about the stadium deal.
right.
Virginia Football Stadium Authority. Where does that legislation stand right now, and where do you stand on that bill?
Well, as we talked before we got on air, Paul and I both, and we didn't know this either, we're both against it, right? And we both voted no. The bill will pass.
The bill's coming out.
The bill is going to pass. I'm confident with some of my colleagues that are on finance that have heard the in-depth part of the bill, and I heard a little bit of it in one of the committees because I had a bill up in that committee, ensuring that they were doing the best they could do in the interest of Virginia to make sure that we're not going to financially get handed a bag when Dan Snyder leaves. But my big thing
In a deteriorating stadium,
Correct.
depreciating asset, that was concerns I've had expressed.
right,
Right.
Because after 30 years, that stadium's there. What do you do with it?
Yeah.
right.
Paul, what's
Yeah, no, I mean,
what's
I'm
the
the
talk?
same.
What's talking
I mean,
the House side?
I mean,
that's more to your district anyway. It's more up your way.
Yeah. You know,
which one?
Mr. Snyder just moved into my district, in fact.
The state's
The
most expensive house, I think it was in the
Sir,
Washington Post.
which is-
$45 million house.
Something like that.
But it has
40
someone else has to build him a stadium. That's not a good look.
Let me just say that there aren't too many of those homes in my district. It's we have a very diverse district, but that shocked me even. But it's on the, I represent right south of Alexandria and to Mount Vernon, and we have the shoreline there, and he has a number of acres there on the shore on Potomac River, and so that's his new place. But he hasn't reached out to me as his delegate yet, and but he probably, after he hears this, he's probably not going to be. He won't be calling. But I don't think public. I don't like to see public money being used for stadium deals. I mean, the interesting thing is we've been talking about gaming. the casinos aren't getting any public money. And that Super Bowl was just played in LA, and that was not financed with any public money. I don't think the taxpayers' money should be involved in all. It's a 30-year, $1 billion deal, I heard. But I do think that this is only step one. Yes, we've lost this first step, but it's going to be he could be just playing us against Maryland and D.C. and trying to get the best deal. I'm sure that's what he's doing. And this is only really to set up the bond financing setup situation. So I'm still hopeful that at the end of the day, no taxpayer money is used to support it. And
but it doesn't sound as a groundswell of opposition to this thing.
And my constituents are very much opposed.
I've heard a lot.
Very much opposed.
Yeah, I've heard a lot from mine as well.
Opposed as well?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I think it has this whole fundamental principle, like if you weren't a billionaire, normal business person wouldn't get it. If I wanted to go do a small stadium and or a turf field from all my soccer leagues and lacrosse leagues and all this stuff, nobody's going to come in and give me government money.
Even if you put in half of it, which is the deal, I guess. Yeah, unless we give that deal to everybody, we shouldn't give it to him.
Well, you're not going to find any opposition from me. You guys worth $5 billion. I mean, what's he coming to us for?
Right.
I mean, I met with him and he showed me the plans. I'm like, okay, why do we have to chip in for this?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, you can get financing for this. If it's that great of a deal, you can go to the markets and find a lot of financing for this.
I think I heard, and I can't confirm this, but I heard he bought that house with cash, so no financing.
Cash deal, $45 million house, and he's coming to the Commonwealth to stake him to a new stadium that he's going to turn over to the Commonwealth at the end of the day.
Right.
Well, another subject for another day.
He'll probably get into charitable gaming.
Well, look, that's 1.3 with 2 companies. I mean, come on, look, there's a lot of money here. That's it. I mean, we're talking $1 billion over 30 years.
Look, our economy, our society is changing. We're moving into more sports and entertainment, cultural methods of growing our economy as our economy diversifies and deepens. Ukraine was notwithstanding, no one's going to happen there from an economic impact standpoint. But that's the kind of oversight we have to have in the Commonwealth to make sure it's done appropriately and that people aren't taken advantage of, and we don't have corruption. I mean, it just sounds like rank corruption in the charitable gaming area.
Well, I think, Chris, I just think it's Paul mentioned, you mentioned I'm going to Congress, and one of the things that I'd like to do if I ever got there was put a bill in to do single object rule, and you know what that is, right?
Thank you,
right?
God.
I mean, how much could you
explain for the audience what single object is, because I've written on this.
I have not known that, but this is something that's been dwelling in my head.
And they also need to come up with the fundraising ban during session. They shouldn't be raising money while they're passing legislation.
Yeah.
That needs to stop.
Yeah, well, just like we do here, right? In the General Assembly, you can't raise money
during session.
But single object rule simply says, look, if you have a bill, charitable gaming bill, you can't tie foster care to this or veterans issue to this.
Right.
It's got to stay germane to whatever the
original purpose of the bill.
Right, and I think when you do that, it helps take the politics, the mold off of it, right? Because certain bills and certain issues are going to be nonpartisan in nature, and everybody can coalesce around them. And when you look, and you know this, you were a delegate, there are a lot of bills that I don't think most Virginians know that just go through because it's the right thing to do, and everybody they're unopposed docket, right?
Yeah.
And it's the other political issues that are the ones that make headlines, that do all these sort of things, because the press loves to thrive on confrontation. Right, that's, somebody's upset, they said this means that. But by and large, when we're down here, we're working for the good of the Commonwealth. And everybody has constituencies, and they bring bills forward. And depending on what that issue is, it may or may not. Like I sat in committee yesterday, and we heard bills, and I'd go back, and they were House bills, and I'd go back, and I don't know the patron that well, but in its face, it's a good bill. I'm going to vote for it. But then I go back and I check and I look and see what the vote was out of the House, and I look and see the members.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, they must have pissed off a bunch of the Republicans because I see all these no votes on the bottom of it, but it's a good bill. And in the Senate, we have a different attitude. If it's a good bill, you're going to see a lot of
you guys
bipartisan
come in
support.
later, you know.
Hey, the flip side of that is even if you have 100 people on the House side that voted for it, they still may kill it.
Because
That's true.
there might have been only 3 in the House that actually read it. Fair.
That's fair.
That's not unfair.
Well,
That's not unfair.
We're going to hear 3,000 pieces of legislation, right? I mean,
That's
they handed
true,
us the
that's true.
weed
I mean,
bill that was 451 pages in less than 20 minutes to vote on it. I'm like,
Who does it? Right.
Like, I'm not gonna vote
and that's
for
with a single object.
Right. That's right.
Can
That's
you imagine? And you go,
yeah. Here's your 3,000 page. Here, Congressman, go vote.
But
right?
you know, that's a good example of what we need to make sure we have a strong regulatory environment when we do something of that nature. I mean, that's a big
because
deal.
you're turning it, once you've done your job, you're turning it over to the executive branch and saying you guys have got to enforce these things.
Right, we've got to
smart attorneys who are going to take every word
and pick that apart.
and that's what happened to us on our bill.
Yeah. I mean, we know there's going to be loopholes that we didn't anticipate.
That's why we have 2,000 bills every year. We come back and tighten things up over here because people are going to push into those areas.
Or release them.
Or release
right?
them. Sure.
Yeah.
Because you can do some damage too. And
which is the balance of the legislature.
correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, this has been an invigorating conversation.
Thank you,
I want to
Chris.
thank you both for coming in here. It sounds an exciting project, and the Commonwealth is blessed to have you both at the helm of this ship because this is a very positive opportunity and a very negative opportunity. And I just want to thank you both for doing it and coming into the VIP podcast brought to you by VCTA, the Broadband Association of Virginia and Virginia Free, of which I'm the executive director. Available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Please subscribe, like, and share. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you,
Chris.
Good luck today.
Thank you, Paul, for your help.
Thank you.
That's great stuff. Oh, there it is. Bipartisanship. It's back. It's back, baby. It's back.